Hello, everybody. Hi out there. I'm Mike Sokol from RV Electricity, and welcome to my next Ask the Expert webcast, a live webcast. Yes, you get to ask your questions. First off, I'd like to do a shout out to rvtravel.com for helping promote all of this, and they're the home of all my articles that I write. I do about 8 to 10 articles every month, so I do a lot of stuff. All good. And tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to actually have a discussion. Looks like I'm hearing an echo. Wait a minute. Too many things. I'm hearing myself on my phone echoing in the background. Turn off all your other radios. Go. What's wrong with me? Okay. So yeah, tonight we're going to have an hour-long discussion here with Will from SmartPlug. So first off, I have a really good announcement here. My friends from Techno RV are going to give away a free SmartPlug kit after this session. And basically, what's going to happen is if you go to technorvgiveaway.com, or I've got it listed right down in the about section here, right underneath the video when it's done. You click on that, you enter your name and an email address, and on Sunday they're going to go ahead and do a drawing, and you can have a 30 or 50 amp smart plug kit of your choice, whatever you want. You know, the male and female plug. And I understand that Will is going to actually personally build this with his hot little hands, all for you, right? Will, wait a minute, get on camera here, man. So let's see here. Here he comes. There he is. He goes, what? What? I'm on camera? Yes, you are. Hey, Will, say hi to everybody out there.
Hi, Mike.
Oh, a little bit of dropout issue. Da, 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 da. Hey, Will.
Thanks, everyone, today.
There we go.
Huh.
Oh. Well, we're coming from Seattle, so it's a little far out there. Yeah, we're dropping out just a smidge. Okay, so we'll work through and see how this is all going. So first off, I've got just a bunch of now. Let's go ahead, if you guys would all be so kind as to welcome Will, and if you've got any questions on this. Well, first off, let me show you something. Let me kind of give you an idea of what this is all about. I've got a bunch of SmartPlug products here that I get to play with. And the twist lock stuff that you have on the side of your many of your RVs, the original twist lock design was not really meant to be outside. It wasn't meant to be horizontal. I think this was like in the 30s or 40s when they were starting to electrify production lines. And so they would have a line of these receptacles up above you, and you would reach up and plug in like your motor, for your sewing machine or whatever you're doing above you. So they later added on the little twist lock ring on it, and this is the best that they could do. And this is, UL listed, and most RV manufacturers use that. But I found this a couple of years ago, and I love heavy duty connectors. This stuff is really great. So instead of having a little twist lock, it is a big, massive unit like this. It sits on the side of your RV that you can install yourself. And then it's got one of these guys right here. And you can see there's no twisting or anything. You just basically put it together and snap that down. And that thing it's just got massive amounts of contact area. I forget how much they said, maybe like 20 times the original amount. If you guys have been following my my Facebook stuff, my RV Electricity Facebook stuff, you'll see that I have, I'm building a unit that I can overload these things with like 150 amperes of current. So it's going to be some fun with this stuff. Okay, so now let's get Will back in here and see how he's doing.
Well, thanks for having me on, Mike.
Oh, you're very welcome. So let's see. We've got some welcome from Yorktown, Virginia. Okay. British Columbia. We've got them from all over the place here. Okay, so now I've got another one. JST. Been using SmartPlug for about 2 years now and absolutely love it. So we have fans out there. How you like that, Will? You have a fan club.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Well, we're still having a little bit of dropouts here. Not the best. Oh, this worked so perfectly earlier in the week. It was absolutely stable. Duh. Okay, so let's go ahead. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away here, and let's see how you do. I'm going to solo you up on screen and see if that reduces my bandwidth issues a little bit. And let's talk a little bit about why SmartPlug, why people should consider upgrading their twist lock to a SmartPlug system.
Well, Mike, you made it pretty clear earlier is that the old twist locks that were designed back in the 30s. These were meant to hang vertically from a ceiling. The way that they twist and lock in the ceiling was a way for them to just hold in place, and then the vertical pressure would actually hold those pins in place off that simple lock pocket that you can kind of see right there. They were never meant to be horizontal. You might be familiar with the lock ring that's on these things that you might just take and chop off and throw away. That lock ring is meant to deal with the fact that they shouldn't have been horizontal. If you can, why they work, got together right here. They again represent the side of your RV. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure for me to start to pull those plugs apart. And over time and heat and wear, that crack can just get bigger and bigger until you might even have one of your pins separated from the plug. SmartPlug was brought about from the marine industry, where RVs thankfully don't move around a whole lot once they're plugged in, but boats do. They're anchored at a dock. You might have wakes and waves depending on where you're at. So the plug itself actually needs to be able to hold itself to the boat while it's at dock. So one thing we've changed with it is that it's a locking mechanism is no longer the pins itself. The pins aren't what's required to hold the contact of the plug. That is the locking mechanism is separate from those pins. So we've also made a couple of improvements on the inside of our plug. As far as the way, again, that the plug is designed to hold the cord in place. So as you might see from, this isn't a great example, but when saying having a retrofitted plug, you might actually have a seal on the backside that's meant to hold the cord in place. We've put that inside of the plug to eliminate that as another possible strain point. So as far as choosing SmartPlug, it's a pretty straightforward decision as far as removing the need for that contact to actually be the holding factor for the plug. The locking is no longer the contact itself. It's designed into the casing of the plug. I guess it's pretty straightforward after that. Mike, did you have any other?
A couple of other observations. The materials, and basically you guys know, I don't know, Will knows, but I take everything apart. I try to destroy everything. I mean, I've put micrometers on this stuff. This is heavy duty material. And it appears that the thickness of the material that you use in your contacts for the 30 amp is the same as the 50 amp. Am I right? I mic'd them out. They look like they're the same thickness. So these things should have a tremendous amount more contact area than the little twist locks. And one of the things that I see, I get people all the time, ask me my columns, when they keep saying they burn these things up. And I had one guy, he had burned up 3 of the twist locks on the side of his camper in one season, 3 of these things. And he goes, why is this happening? And I finally talked to him. I said, well, are you twisting it and locking it in? He didn't realize that you had to lock it. So twist lock plug, right? You got to lock it in. And then you've got to thread that ring on there. And then I had another one that they had broken the ring. They had cross-threaded it and it broke and it wasn't holding it properly. They were actually getting a hot skin condition because the thing was losing the ground depending on how you wiggled around. And they were getting shocked as they were touching their RV and they couldn't figure it out. They nobody could figure this out. They finally drove this thing. They had it delivered to me up here in above Hagerstown from South Carolina. They put it on a flatbed and brought it up here for me to go figure it out. I figured it out in an hour, but that's what it was. And I said, we're going to upgrade to a SmartPlug in the RV shop that we're at. And that's what they did, because they said, we don't want any more of this. And again, if everything was properly maintained and everything was put together, and if you didn't drag too much weight on it, and if you didn't leave it laying out in the rain and all those other things, then your other ones would be okay. But I'm from the crowd that I like belt and suspenders kind of stuff. I like the fact that you've got real latches on these things. You got real seals on this. You've got marine grade contacts. Those poor shore power plugs and connectors, man, those things lead a sad life. They really, really do. So the more you can help them, the better off you'll be.
Anything we can do to take the structural requirement away from the pins was one of our first things that we did when we looked at this. Was again, when you twist and lock, it's the thing that's is the pins itself. Like, that's what's dependent on the locking actually being achieved. The fact that we've removed that as part of the equation removes most of the risk for that plug breaking down over time. You know, there's still the issues of maintenance, and we tried to eliminate some of those problems too with the way the front of the plug is designed and can be covered and locked too. Some parts of it are simpler, and some of the ways that L530 was almost over-engineered for a very specific purpose, again, being vertically mounted and then not being outside and not moving around and not going under the abuse and being constantly plugged in and unplugged as an RV can be. Once it was plugged up into a factory ceiling, it was kind of meant to stay there. Maybe that machine was moved half a dozen other times. The plug is actually only rated for about 150 uses before it starts to get to its wear down point. SmartPlug is rated much higher than that.
So I've got a question here for Mike Zimmerman. Now, he's admin over on my RV Electricity Facebook page. We work on stuff like this all the time and discuss overloading and overheating and every kind of thing you can imagine. So I don't know if you can answer this or not, but he asked, does SmartPlug have any plans to design, produce a plug/receptacle for the pedestal side of the supply? And I think Mike has a good background in the marine industry, and I think the marine is, those guys worry about this a lot more than we do. So is the original TT30, is there plans to replace that, or is that some future maybe thing, or who knows? I think we lost Will for a second. Hey, Will.
There it goes. I was thinking about it. The internet gremlins are working with me here. So, no, good news. We are developing where we've actually finished development on a dockside solution. So, we have a cover plug and a male end plug here that can go for the dockside. It's based on the same design principles as the inlet and connector from the RV side for the dock side. A lot of thought has gone into keeping this waterproof and getting that IP rating that is so after sought in the marine world, and starting to release it into the industrial market as well.
Okay, so I got another question here. Well, this isn't a question, so this is I'm cross. So here, Terry Haynes, howdy, Mike Z, Terry H here. So we're doing the linking everybody up here, just like a big mosh pit. Now, this is a great question here. So Don Jesse says, are they going to make a 90-degree plug to reduce stress from the cord hanging down? Any plans for 90-degree version of this thing that you know of?
That is in the product pipeline. At this point, we've got design drawings for such a thing, but not yet.
Okay.
We recognize the need for it in the industry.
Okay, so now Stuart's asking a really interesting question here. It says, I have a 30 amp 3-prong receptacle, not a twist plug, in an inner bay. Will SmartPlug work in this situation? I'm guessing this is a 30 amp, just a twist lock, right?
Well, this is sounds like he's talking T30, perhaps.
Okay, so now one thing that I've
Or,
seen, some of these guys will have like a physical plug that you have to move across to like plug your RV into a generator or into shore power, and they'll actually be like a receptacle, like you like move across on the inside of the bay of the RV. I didn't even know that existed. I assumed everybody had some sort of a automatic transfer switch, and maybe he's talking about that sort of thing. Stuart, can you expand on that a little bit for us? Is that so is this not a twist plug in the inner bay? So it must be a TT30. Is that what you've got going on?
There's some other weird. I think there's some other weird like 3-prongs out there as well, like double flat bladed and some other strange NEMA configurations. I don't see why, since we have developed from the dock side, we do have both sides in generator applications. So I imagine it would.
So let me ask you another question. I've never seen this. What about warranty on these things?
We offer a 7-year warranty for on failure of the plug. We are interested in any failures that do happen on the field, every single one of them.
The one thing that, like I said, that I'm going to be doing here next month is I've got my overamp thing. I've got a buck boost transformer. It's rated for 166 amps of output, and I'm going to be putting SmartPlug and other plugs to the test, basically to see what happens, see if I can burn up some stuff. Don't worry, I'm going to be a good husband. You know, I'm not doing it in the house. I'm doing it out in my shop. I've got plenty of fire extinguishers, all the other stuff, but I'm going to be using FLIR cameras, infrared cameras on that to kind of look down inside of the stuff. So it's really fascinating technology. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that next month, and specifically doing some of this stuff for SmartPlug. As just basically, I guess, for marketing literature. And, you know, basically, I'm since I've retired from doing big rock and roll stuff, I got to get into some kind of trouble. So I've got my whole lab set up basically to be able to destroy things, well, like I used to do in big rock and roll things. But they didn't like it. Now I can do it. Do it to my heart's content. Okay, any other questions here for Will that we've got? I will remind you again, if you go down in the bottom section here, that SmartPlug. Let me see if I've got that. I should say that Techno RV is giving away a SmartPlug set. You know, a male and female end that you can put on yourself at the end of this. So coming on Sunday. Oh, we got all kinds of questions. So Ken asks, can I retrofit a SmartPlug from the outside of the motorhome or trailer? Getting access inside appears to be next to impossible. All connections and installations done from the outside. I have played around with this a little bit, and yeah, I think that's actually pretty doable, because the thing is basically the exact same layout as your other ones, or ought to be. It's a matter of pulling that out, removing the screws there from the wirings, and then putting this in. I will say they've got really, really a great mounting system on the inside here, so you can really get Allen wrenches and stuff. Would you concur with that, Will? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and he might be also thinking of some sort of a box that goes on the underside of the carriage of the set up with a NEMA box with a cord.
Right.
Cord is, say, hardwired into the motorhome. You would have to have a plate that goes over the existing rollout, well, where you have to push that cord back into the RV rather than being able to plug it and separate it from the coach. So because you could retrofit that.
Now, Roger Z asks, I see there's an upgrade kit with the coach plug and end on the cord. My original 25-foot cord is 5 years old, So far, so good, never damaged. Do you recommend using a new cord as well, or can you just use the kit? And I've got a picture of the kit here I can show, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, it's this kind
Yeah,
of
that's what I.
thing. So, this is where
Yeah.
you could just retrofit this on the end. But let's see.
So yeah, that's this retrofit kit here. Is that what we use for that specific purpose? A cord that's 5 years old. I mean, you say it's not damaged. I would say a cord has about 5 to 10 years of life in it before it should be replaced. So if you're being extremely cost conscious, you might want to consider just getting a retrofit kit. But I also encourage everybody to be replacing their cords on a regular. It's an off damaged piece of equipment.
Yeah, see, I've got one of these babies. Yeah, everybody.
And I got a 30 amp one right here.
I couldn't find my 30. I was running around looking for it. I said, the only thing I can find right here is the 50. And of course, that's the big heavy one I got to drag around. But I have found, okay, and remember, I am the cord specialist. And the reason for that is when we do a rock and roll show, I sometimes literally have miles of cable with me. And if they're all properly wrapped and cleaned and put away, then they will last for decades. I mean, I've got some cables that I built 35 or more years ago that are still perfect. But if you wrap them incorrectly, you don't clean them off, and then, I mean, you can destroy them in 3 or 4 years very easily. So depending on how you took care of it and how much time it had out in the sun, UV is a powerful thing. It just starts to destroy the insulation. If it's been sitting outside for 5 years, it's likely to have trouble. The newest cable, the newest wiring, I think has way superior, that rubber insulation on the front than the stuff they did 10 or 20 years ago. A lot of that stuff was just garbage. It would just fall apart. So do you concur? Well, Will, something like that? I mean, if it shows any signs of cracks on it, get rid of it.
Yeah, if it looks particularly UV damaged, that's a killer right there. You see it all the time in marine, especially. Stuff's outside, it's getting salt spray. That UV breakdown is something very real that's happening. Most of our plastics, well, all of our plastics actually have UV packages to deal with that discoloring and degradation, but PVC still breaks down over time. So it's something to keep in mind. If you ever have a extremely UV damaged cord, it'll be almost gummy. Starting to give off particulates.
There's another thing I want to warn you guys all about. I just saw this on one of my groups yesterday, and somebody was having trouble, the twist locks, seizing in there, and somebody had recommended using Vaseline in it, which is always like a really bad idea. You understand that's petroleum jelly. Petroleum is like actively will destroy plastics and rubbers and that kind of stuff. And my dad would do this. He would use WD-40 all the time on his trailer connectors for his little trailers, not the big ones, but the little ones. And he'd say, this thing's falling apart. And he'd keep spraying it. And he's spraying it every week, just soaking this thing. And it finally got to the point where the rubber just started to disintegrate and just swelled up. So you never want to use any kind of petroleum on it. Would you guys recommend any kind of contact cleaner, deoxit, contact spray, or silicone spray on your products, or are they just good running naked? There, I said naked.
We actually, well, what you say about petroleum jelly is somewhat correct. It's not actually that flammable. We use a no ox ID out of all of our cords before sending them out. It increases the life of that contact over time. That contact is still going to be made, but you want to keep the corrosion and water from getting into, the bits and crannies for it.
Got it. Okay.
No oxide ID, you can actually purchase it on Amazon for a couple bucks. It's used in battery terminals and other areas where you're doing contact addition. We use it in the electrical industry for panels and other areas where you need to protect from the elements.
Okay, so Stuart did say, yes, when he was talking about inside, it's a transfer switch that I have to manually unplug to connect. He says to higher power. He says to shore power. Yes, we know, a little flumpy finger. So yeah, so he was the one that was talking about, if it was inside of the belly, could you use this instead of, whatever they're using for a plug? I'm guessing that must be a TT30 in there, Stuart. I'm guessing. So does that make sense then?
Yeah, that makes sense. You could. I would need to know what side's the male, what side's the female, what side's the inlet, what side's the receptacle sort of thing. Whether you'd be the dockside set or the standard retrofit set, because you don't want live contacts visible on the inlet.
Remember, the females are always the energized stuff. The male stuff's always looking to get the stuff. You never wire this up backwards. Never, never, never. Where you would have, don't go there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
this stuff is hot.
Right.
This stuff is not.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Wow, it's a poetry thing. William Robbins asks, what is the contact area of the smart plug for each electrode versus the contact area of the twist plug? How much more contact area do these guys have compared to a twist lock?
About 20 times as much is the number on that. And again, the whole point of the smart plug is that the contacts mate the same every time. In a twist lock, it's whether or not you've locked it all the way. Have you overlocked it? Has it worn out? Does it fall off over time? Ours is the same every time too.
So let's see. So John asks, any issues with fretting? Should have used dielectric lube. And of course, that's where you start spalling off metal as it's making contact.
Yep. Again, we use the NOAX ID for that. That's the preferred dielectric grease we use. And actually, we ship the cords with that inside all of our molded cord sets with that already applied.
So, yep, there we go. George just says, what about dielectric grease? There you go. What I'll do, if you like, I'll go ahead and put a link up to that on my own Facebook page here and right in the YouTube thing here later once we're all done with this. Excellent. Looking for any other questions.
NOAX ID was used in like the Ballard locks for all of its connections and things of that nature. So it's used for some of the most intense electrical connections, underwater connections, things of that nature that have to really deal with those moisture and elements.
Okay, so Terry Haynes says, I skipped his question. So I've been properly admonished. Can you use your product on the front of a fifth wheel while driving? So I see guys do this all the time. I plan on carrying a truck generator, add the alternator and a 3,000 watt inverter in my truck in the back of that, and run the AC into the fifth wheel. So if you put this on the front of the fifth wheel, could you use that to connect from the generator that'd be sitting in the bed of your truck into your fifth wheel? I know these guys like to be able to get the air conditioning going and everything else while they're going down the road. So when they get into the campground, it's nice and cool and their beer is cold. Don't want to be drinking beer while you're driving, but once you're set up, it's Miller time, whatever. Will that work on an RV while it's being pulled down the road? I'm assuming no faster than the speed limit, right, Terry? I'm guessing.
Oh, you could set it up for that. I've actually installed a couple of these on some Airstream units where they have that generator in the back of their truck and are trying to keep power flowing to the unit while on the road. You basically use a combination of the dockside and the inlet. Again, you want to make sure power is flowing in the correct direction. Usually what we find, I've seen installs where they've done it backwards, where that hot line, they've used SmartPlug in a way that's inappropriate by using it backwards.
Okay, so Terry says, wait a minute, the truck is the generator. There isn't a generator in the truck. Okay, whatevs. So I'm guessing is it one of those new ones that actually has the built-in inverter generator in it? I suspect that's what you're talking about. But it doesn't matter. It really is what you're saying is, as you don't want to do this on the side of your RV. What you want to have is on the front nose of it. So that it doesn't actually hang off the side of it. But yeah, I could see that being far, far superior to any other thing because that would really lock in. Okay, so
being able to lock from both sides is important. Yeah.
Yes. So Ken asks, okay, with our Canadian friends, does SmartPlug have a Canadian distributor, or are we at the mercy of the product getting here via Amazon through customs and being subjected to intense scrutiny? So Okay, so I guess that's yeah.
That's an easy answer. Western Marine Company up north has been one of our first distributors in North America, and
So
it should
you're
be
not
a
at the
pretty
tender
easy
mercies of
contact.
custom, right? Not at the tender mercies of the customs guys. Okay, so Terry says thanks very much. Okay, so we're all good. Okay, any other questions? How are we doing out there? Anyone got snow yet? Good heavens, they're talking about snow in my place. Ah. I do have some really fun more projects here coming up really soon. They're going to it's involve a bunch of high current stuff. So what I may do actually in the shop is actually set up some SmartPlug stuff just for my quick disconnects of what I'm doing, because I think that'll survive a lot better. Ken says, I don't know any marine sources. I think did you just answer that? I think, yes.
Yeah, it's SmartPlug was primarily a marine product before it was an RV product. So as far as easy access Canadian distribution, Western Marine Company is going to be your best bet for not fighting through customs.
And so what I'll do later here is I'll go ahead and get a list of these things and I'll post them for you guys, for ease of access, so that you can get any of that. I will remind you that Techno RV is a really nice source here in the United States if you want, and they do a lot of after the sale support too. As much as I love my Amazon stuff and I get it in, you're pretty much on your own in terms of technical support. Wait a minute. Somebody says, oh, good heavens. Somebody's 30 inches of snow in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Oh, good heavens. I feel sorry for you. Okay, so look at this. I should not have said this. 27 to 30 inches on Sunday in Denver. Come out and help us shovel. I'm in tiny little Maryland here. I'm a little far out, but oh, good golly. I do have a big, massive snowblower that's actually has power steering in it. So having fun. Okay. So Don Jesse says Western Marine Company is out of BC. Must be British Columbia, right? I think. Am I thinking about this right? I don't have all of my Canadian geography in my head. Okay, so Jeff wants to know, Techno RV is out of the 30 amp cord. Should they be back in stock soon? He's asking a supply question. Okay, Will, you've locked up. See, you had a tough question. I don't know. I know all kinds of distribution issues here. We'll wait for him to unlock. Are you back, Will?
Yes. I don't imagine that Techno RV will be out of stock for long.
Okay, because I know they're real good supply house for this stuff. Okay, so let's see. Oh, and here's Terry Hayes bragging. I'm in San Diego. We finally had our 4th day of rain this year. It was cold in the 50s. Burr. Yeah. I feel sorry for you. Because we've had like 17-degree weather. Oh, I will tell you something, a funny little story. I had to become a steam boiler mechanic and go figure this out. My boiler, which is a new boiler, and I have a 100-year-old house almost, we developed a leak in the steam pipes where they had run them down underneath the concrete floor. I was losing 100 gallons of water a day. Water. I finally fixed it, but it was not fun. Let's see. So Jeff says Amazon has them, but I would rather get them for Techno RV. Techno RV is saying, yep, we should have more within a week or two. So stand by. Yeah, 50, and we're 51 degrees in Michigan today. So we're intermixing the weather in with everything else. Oh, what do? Spring is sprung.
Well, I feel I should let Techno RV know this too over the stream, is that something that the RV industry is moved towards is having reverse polarity light requirements for coaches to deal with campground reverse issues. That's, you can get hot skin effects, all sorts of terrible things that fry up your electronics. So smart plugs are now coming with a reverse polarity light. and stop the plug. If you are familiar with our product and have seen it out in the field, you'll notice that this light likes to turn a nice blue. There's a second light in there now that it dictates whether or not it has reverse polarity. We've just started putting these boards in about a month or two ago. So we're pretty excited that the latest batch going to Techno RV is going to.
So my question, Will, is how come I don't have one yet? How come I don't have one of these? I should have one, right?
Well, you should. Everyone should. I think
Everyone should. But yeah, if they'll send me one, I'll go ahead and set up a demonstration because, I've got all the video stuff. You probably will have not seen this, but I have got a real 50 amp, 50, 30, 20 pedestal I can put on my desk with a big variac on it, and I can vary the voltage up and down and change reverse polarities and open the grounds and do all kinds of crazy stuff with it and show how to measure. It's really kind of fun to be able to do it, right there in front of you. And I've got overhead cameras on it. So once I get one, I can actually do a video of it, one of my No Shock Zone videos of it soon.
Well, I might just send you this very one. This is
it could be.
This is probably one of the first 10 of the new reverse polarities that came off the line. So
first, yeah, that's right. The fine wine as it comes out. So let's see. Technos RV says, thanks for thinking of us, Jeff. Yes, I'm feeling the love. And let's see. Jeff also, here it was. Techno RV, thank you. I will be getting TPMS. That's a tire pressure monitoring system and a SmartPlug setup from you. Sometime here we're going to do an Ask the Expert series on tire pressure monitor systems. I think that's a valid safety issue because when you dragging something down the road that's got a lot of tires and you don't know one has got no air in it, bad things happen. Few things are scarier than a tire fire from running them underinflated. So let's see. Any other questions? How are we doing out there? Any other things that I should know about, Will, that nobody has bothered to tell me? No, I actually knew that you guys were coming up with the polarity reversal light because I've been working with NFPA now for well over a year on this technology and how it works and why you need it and all that other sort of thing. So yeah, I'm familiar with that. I just didn't know you had it quite yet. I was embargoed.
Well, you were talking about fires earlier. I mean, that's what we're in the business to try and prevent, right? To talk tire fire, well, we're in the business to prevent, RV fires in general. One thing that came up was our materials, right? So one of the things that I'm particularly proud of in the SmartPlug product line is that these materials that we use are pretty close to bomb-proof. A system is only good as how well it's designed, and even with the SmartPlug in it, a system's weakness is where it's connected. So finding ways to prevent even when there's a malfunction from causing damage to a coach is one of our primary design features. So everything that is surrounding the contacts in here is completely encased in a fire-rated PCPBT. So even if there was to be anything in the system at that connection point, it would be contained within the plug itself.
So it will be interesting. Like I said, in the next month here, I am going to overload this to like insane levels, put 150 amperes through a 30 ampere one and see if I can burn it up. And we're going to see how this all works. And again, don't tell my wife I do any of this. My kids love it when I do these really crazy things because they like to come over and hang out. And my adult children like to see if I'm going to blow stuff up. So, wait a minute, Ken. So Ken will not let this go. He is saying, so no official start date of the 90-degree design smart plug? I'm guessing
not at this time. No, it is definitely on our product pipeline, but I can tell you as the person in charge of executing said design, it's considerable to get that up and going. So we would love to have that out right now, but it does take time.
So going back to the fire stuff, I think fires in RVs are just one of those things that's the most scary thing that can possibly happen. So anything that you can do, especially electrical fires, anything that you can do to limit that possibility to keep you and your family safe is a really, really good thing. So this is why, we don't like when cords melt down, I just kind of get this bad feeling. Okay, so Don Jesse, will SmartPlug create a 50 amp to 30 amp reducer so I do not have to always use a 50 amp cord when not needed? And I know what these guys do. They say, those 50 amp stuff, they're heavy. They're heavy to move around. And so what they like to be able to do is use a lighter weight one if they're only going to be doing some basic stuff like in their driveway or whatever. So I guess he's talking about dog bone adapters that would be a short one. Or does he have to roll his own for now?
Well, we are starting to produce dog bone adapters for that in limited release. We do make that. So it's a special order product at this point. But as we expand our production, we'll be able to have those in offer for quick turnaround like the rest of our products. But at this point, he'd be able to roll his own if he wished. You could take a 50 amp retrofit connector and put that onto a 15 or 30 amp cord. Definitely an option.
So you can buy just the one part. You don't have to buy the two components. You could buy just the one section.
Yeah, you can just buy the single BF50, and then I don't have one on my desk here, but you can buy the single BF50 and then with a gasket kit and be able to put that onto a 30 amp cord.
Cool.
So it is something you can do.
So Eric and Tammy, I've got a shout out from Kathy Carter. Hope your new home is working out well. I know they just moved in the last week or two. That a couple times I was talking to Eric, he seemed a little frazzled. He's getting ready to do so. So I'm hoping your new stuff is all doing well. Let's see what else. Dog bone. Okay, yeah. So he's talking about. Okay, so he's asking. He says, "Whoops, there it is." Whoops, lost my.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a wider release of wider release of those dog bone adapters sometime in the summer. It'll be much easier to get your hands on.
There's my problem. I'm not clicking the right thing. So Don Jesse says, yes, a dog bone for use at 30 amp campgrounds like state parks. Yeah, state parks. I'm having some interesting issues with some of these guys. They don't seem to really take a lot of care with their maintenance, let's say, as much as they should. So I'm working on a couple things that maybe can help with that in the future. Come see. Okay, so let's do another little little shout out. Hi, Kathy, Eric here. New office is working out great. Come see us sometime. I feel like I'm passing notes in grade school. And then Kathy is hopefully in August this year. And this great. So yeah, I was always the guy, and they'd say, well, John, because that's my first name. Who did that note come from? And I would never give them up. I was not a rat. So no questions. Okay, so Bob says he doesn't have any questions. Thanks for all the good information you guys are giving us. So Bob is showing us the love. That's all good. I'm going to try to continue to do one or two of these Ask the Expert webcasts every month. Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock seems to be a good time, Eastern time. If you have other ideas for future ones, hit me up, send me emails. Mike at noshockzone.org is a good site for me. You can always get to, or put some comments in here later and I'll find them. But this is turning out to be really good because I get to pick people's brains. And one of my good buddies has said, "Hey, you like these because you don't have to do a lot of preparation work. You just get an expert on there to talk for you." And I go, "Exactly, that's what I want." Okay, so it's no other questions right now.
Well, I did have one other thing I wanted to bring up as far as system design and cord design for RVs and make sure that it's a bit more in the public, because I get this question a lot. So when looking at a cord, right, you might think you have a 30 amp cord, right, that this can push 30 amps at all times. It's only meant to push 30 amps some of the time. I know Mike has gone into this in the past about continuous load versus nominal load, where you're looking at how much, like say all of your air conditioning and all of your fridges and freezers and everything else is running at full blast, and you're pulling 30 amps. That system was never designed to pull 30 amps all the time, and that can cause damage to your system over time. Smart plugs are rated well beyond that 30 amp, but the wire itself is still only rated for that amount of current draw. So it's something to keep in mind as far as the way your system can degrade.
One thing that I have found is that as much as I love having a some sort of a advanced surge protector that's got current monitoring on it, and you can watch this thing, and those people just run it right to the edge continuously. And so what they're doing is manually load shedding. And circuit breakers will actually take beyond 30 amperes. I think the last test I did was I had like 4 minutes at 40 amperes before it would trip. And so they're just always pushing it right over the edge until it trips. I remember some of my days back, doing old summer concerts. So guys would sit there and put fans on circuit breaker panels, or they would spray down a circuit breaker panel with a CO2 fire extinguisher to cool it down so we could run more lighting at shows, which was a little terrifying for me. Yeah, I mean, and the wires were so hot, they would just kind of lay there, and that kind of stuff eventually will break them down. So better insulation, better wiring is good, but these things, they run them right to the very, very edge. And now remember that 30 amp plug, it looks like it's a big, massive thing. That's only good for 3,600 watts. That's only half again as much as a 20 ampere outlet in your house. It looks like it should be a big 240 volt thing. It looks like it should have massive amounts going through like your stove. It is not a stove connector. It is just not. The 50 amp ones, remember, and you've read a lot of my stuff, 50 amps, we should really call them 100 amps because they're 50 amps a side. It's, so it's basically 100 amperes. I got to get a little math in here. 100 amperes times 120 volts. It's 12,000 watts. So a 50 ampere one is good for 12,000 watts, whereas a 30 ampere one is only good for 3,600 watts. Okay, everybody, how much watts would be in your 20 ampere one? It'd be 2,400 watts. So you can easily get up to the capacity of a 30 amp one with nothing more than a coffee pot and a microwave running at the same time. I mean, you're right up there at the edge of these things. Okay, here we go. More questions.
We got some questions.
Questions. Trevor. Okay, so Trevor, and I've seen you before. You've been on other ones here, haven't you? You're a troublemaker. Does the length of a cord affect the load? Some provincial loads have the electrical post at least 25 to 30 meters from the RV site. So he's talking about if you have to extend this longer, does it actually increase the current? Well, actually what it does is it increases the voltage drop on the cord, going to your thing. Some devices like air conditioners can in fact draw excessive current if the voltage gets too low. I guess if that's what you're asking. But you should always run a shorter cord as reasonable. I wouldn't run a 100-foot cord if I only needed to go 30 feet. I'd get a 30-foot cord. So have you seen anything? What length do you sell your complete plugs in? Is it 25 footers, I think, that you have, Will? I think?
Oh, we sell our RVs from 30 to 36 feet, and at 30 feet, and our marine cords at 50 feet. As far as the question that Trevor has, you hit it there on the head there, Mike, is that it's not necessarily the current draw doesn't go up, but the voltage does drop. But if the voltage does drop, that'll increase the current over the line over a given amount of time. So you want to reduce that current by, is it 10% for every, 10 meters is a good
I use really, really thick cables when we do big stuff, but I've had guys that one thing you do not do, and a lot of people don't understand, those skinny little orange extension cords that you can get over at any of the big box stores that are like, 16 gauge wire, those are evil. Don't use adapters and use that to run out to your RV because you can actually push way more current through those than they're rated for. And in fact, I have a video that I did maybe 8 years ago. I should do a new one. I basically used something called a glow melt transformer. I ran 30 of amperes of current through a cord that was only rated for 15 amperes. And within 5 minutes, it had gotten right around the boiling point of water. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could have caught it on fire. I will catch stuff on fire here this summer. I promise you. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. If you have a 50 amp RV and you connect to 30 amp pedestal and you only get power to half of the RV, is there a way to switch over to the other line of the 50 amp cord? Okay. Do you want to take that one, Will, or shall I? Because I know the answer to this.
Well, you see it in marine all the time. And when you have a 50 amp boat per se, usually you have a 30 amp splitter that gives you both your L1 and L2 from different lines. In parks, I'm actually not too familiar with the options on that. All I know is that RVs tend to put certain things on your L1 leg and your auxiliaries on L2. So I'm sure there's a switch in some of them as well.
Well, but the real problem is if you get a quality dog bone, and you can read this on my articles all over the place. The Camcos and those guys, it will adapt from the 30 amp male on the one side, and it will split it to both L1 and L2 on the 50 amp side. So they're generally always powered up. I have seen a number of foreign manufacturers that they did exactly that. What you're talking about, they would just have that 30 amp hot, that one line on there, only go to one leg of the RV, but that's not how they're supposed to be wired. That was a misinterpretation of how this is supposed to work. So yeah. So Will is right. It should most of the time kind of Y off to both sides. And if you didn't get one like that, I think I would get a different one. So yeah, you shouldn't have to switch it. It should be automatic. Should just do the both of them. Wait a minute. Here's more.
And that's something to it's something to keep in mind with that splitter as well, is that there's phasing too. Mike was talking about how a 50 amp is both, is really 100 amps, right? You have two legs of 50 amp each, and you're doing the same thing when you're powering up both legs of your RV off of one leg. That's something to keep in mind, is that if you have something that's running off of two phases and you're missing a phase, that can cause an issue.
Right. And things like that, so only big ones generally have 240 volts. I got guys that put, dryers, basically with 240 volt residential heating elements in them. And they will not work off of a 30 amp. They just can't. It doesn't have the correct voltage. So yeah, there's a lot of things that the DIY guys do, and sometimes actual dealers do for you. So okay, let's see here. Free way to switch over the other side. Okay, so Jeff says, okay, what are the options if I use a SmartPlug 30 amp receptacle on the RV, use a SmartPlug 30 amp cord, something happens to the cord, and the only cord is a standard twist lock 30 amp cord at the RV store. So let's say that he's got this all built up, and what has happened is something's happened to the end of his plug, and if he goes to the Shore Power, if he goes to the store, Camping World or whatever, the only thing he's going to find is a standard twist lock plug. Are there any options except for carrying a spare with you?
Well, it's you got two questions there: whether the logistics chain can support you, or whether you're prepared. I would think that I'd rather be prepared and carry an extra BF30 with me. Often open water cruisers, we often recommend just keep a couple extra just in case.
I am, in addition to being, a live sound engineer, I traveled across the country for, doing seminars for like 20 years. And many times I'd be 3,000 miles from home with absolutely unique gear, unique connectors, unique things. I carried spares of everything. I did. I mean, belt and suspenders. That's just me, because again, if I didn't have something, then my show would not go on. My seminar would fail or whatever. And for you Canadian guys out here, I was in London, Ontario I had driven up there. Somebody broke into my truck in the middle of the night, drove it 100 miles, ran it out of gas, busted the locks off the trailer, stole all of my gear out of it. And I still did my seminar that evening because I went and borrowed enough stuff. So I had plenty. Luckily I had backups to all of my files that I needed on my laptop. I always had my laptop with me. Um, I was a Boy Scout, but I didn't get crazy until I started doing rock shows, and I just had to prepare for everything. And I carry everything you can possibly imagine. Okay, so options. So Jeff says, great answer. That was my thought. That means you have to build twice as many of those plugs now, Will. I'm sorry.
Oh no, what am I going to do? If your livelihood's dependent on something being active, well then, be prepared and be ready for that eventuality.
Right. So and let's see. Ken says what he's bragging about. I had to click back. I used to carry so many RV spares, my mileage dropped down to 1.3 miles per gallon, so I had to cut back. And I also did production for television crews. I would do audio for that. I would carry ladders and shovels and umbrellas and spare batteries, and sometimes I would take twice as much as I really needed, but I never felt bad about having extra stuff. I never did. Where only times it would get crazy, I'd have to fly on an airplane and try to get it into a pair of 50-pound cases. That I would always break my heart that I couldn't take 2 of everything. I mean, I would just probably have I would say, I'm not going to take this metal one here because that weighs too much. I'm going to have to take the plastic version of it. This guy here, that saves what, half a pound, whatever. But if that's only if I was flying. But you can see I've got SmartPlug stuff all over the place here. I just collect this stuff. So Don wants to know, will the conversion kit have the ground fault light? That new, it's not really a ground fault, it's a reverse polarity light. So he wants to know if the individual ones have that. Yes?
They don't. The retrofits aren't built to have any electronics inside of them.
Okay. So you have to get the whole new thing in order to do that. Got it.
Yeah, we overmold the circuit board into the plug itself. So,
got it. So Michael Miklas, I don't know how to say it. Miklas, I'm just going to stop. Michael M. How about just carry the one you replaced? So that's true. You could carry the old stuff with you if you replaced it. Throw that in the back, and if you had to, you could revert back to the old one till you got home. That would be another possibility. I never throw anything away. Just ask my wife. So that's actually a pretty good idea. If you're replacing it, just keep the old set, put it in a bag, throw it in your toolkit someplace, and if something goes stupid, at least you can get working. Now G. Care asks, is the reverse polarity light only on the 30 amp cord? That's a great question.
It is both on the 30 and the 50.
So if you tied a 50 together with a 30 amp dog bone and you reverse the polarity on the 30 amp dog bone, then the reverse polarity light would go off, would indicate. Is that correct?
Well, if you reverse the neutral and the power line, it would.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Good. Excellent.
Actually, Ben talks about discussing a circuit board that can detect whether you even reverse that L1 and L2. So it's there's talk about that.
The thing that's interesting, the thing that I find kind of sad, is the fact that many campgrounds do not use what we would call licensed electricians to do the repairs. And they'll use work campers in many cases. And I have seen this not just in campgrounds, but this is my rule of thumb in any kind of bar, church, studio, wherever I am. When I see a brand new outlet on an old wall, I get really worried because somebody that has replaced that recently, and they may not have never tested it. And I got caught one time. at a big gymnasium where I'd set up my sound system for one of my seminars that I was doing, and the guy there was a brand new receptacle on the wall, brand spanking new. I went and plugged into it, and I looked over at my rack. Half my stuff was turned off, but the stuff was turned on, got really, really bright, and then stopped working. And they had taken a regular wall outlet, wired it to 240 volts. And they said, oh, you plugged into the one, that's the one for the guy's floor buffer. And I was like, no, guys, you can't do that. And they said, well, it worked for the floor buffer. We just knew that was the outlet for the floor buffer. Duh. So I would say that 30 amp stuff is especially dangerous because it looks a lot like a dryer outlet. So I get DIY guys and residential electricians who've never worked with RVs accidentally wire those to 240 volts. I get emails every week from guys that fry all their RV electrical systems because of that. So that's a whole different thing. I'm going to do one before long on more information on surge protectors and stuff because I got some more new intel going on. Okay, let's see if we've got. So we've come to. Okay, any other thing that you got here, Will?
Well, that gets into some interesting SmartPlug history too. Is that the standard itself on like what a plug is to plug into where? I don't know if any of you guys have seen a Nemo chart before, but they could show about 100 different plug styles, all the different voltages, all the different combinations. You might have run into it out in the field sometime where you have you have your 120 volt twist lock and you're trying to put it into a plug that looks the same and it doesn't quite go. Well, it's a 250 volt, but it looks really similar. And there's 3 to 4 variations across all different voltages, receptacles, depending if it's industrial or commercial or the California standard. SmartPlug is trying to find its way through that particular standard because we've invented our own pattern system.
And it's tricky because for example, Tesla, you can get a home charger for your Tesla that's hooked off of a 60 amp, 240 volt receptacle that does not have a neutral in it. It's just a 3-pin. You can go on Amazon and buy an adapter that adapts from that welding outlet to a 1450 RV outlet. You can go buy it right now. And it's just terrifying. Just because you can plug it together does not mean that you should. You've got to understand what it is that you're doing. Okay, let's see how else we're doing. I don't think we have any more questions. We've done our hour here. I'll tell you what here, if you'll just hang with me for a second, Will. Let's go ahead. First off, everybody, let's thank Will Russell for taking his time out here. He was also on here with me earlier in the week, so we could make sure everything was working. I should say later last week. I want to remind you all that you can enter to win a free SmartPlug kit at technorvgiveaway.com. And you'll see there's a section right down in the bottom here where you can just click on this. So let's get Will back for a second. See if I can push all the right buttons. There he is. Oh, now it's right in my face. Okay. Too many darn things. Okay, we're getting all kinds of Roger Z says, great webinar. Thanks, guys. Don says, thanks, Will and Mike. There we go. Excellent. Jeff says, nice session. Trevor says, thanks and great information. Techno RV says, thanks, Will. Thank you very much. Let me see what else can I do here. There we go. I got it. Yeah. Okay, so again, make sure you do that enter for that. We'll be doing a drawing Sunday sometime. I'm not sure. Jesus, thanks. Great session. Thanks for being here, Will. Now I have to spend more money on the rig. We're sorry about that. That's just how this works. He says, last question. Will the stainless steel cover transfer any heat to the plug connection? Heat from where? I'm not sure what that means. I'll tell you, Don. If you ask me that in any detail, I'll see if I can get you an answer next week on one of my columns. Because I don't know. Does that make sense to you, Will?
I don't know where the heat from the stainless steel cover is coming from. If you tell me that, then maybe it would transfer. But electrically, no.
Yeah, electrically, no. Okay, I think, and Kathy says, as always, thank you, Mike, and especially Will. There you go, Will. You now have your new fan club. All right, excellent.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Okay, connection we have. There we go. Excellent, excellent. Good, good, good. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you all so much. And Will, thank you very much. And if we get any more questions here, I'll forward them to you, and he can answer you online on one of my articles. Thanks a bunch. Signing off.
Awesome. Thank you.